to hang out with us, their favorite YouTube channels, and talk about things. So I think this is a unique, or I actually hope it's unique, opportunity for those people. Can you see all those people here? To ask questions to all of us. Not me, I don't know stuff. But the brands that are here, the YouTubers, all this, so why is over calling me? I see how it's gonna go. I see no one's taking me seriously. Fine. I can do this all by my fucking self. So, over kind of with me, but more himself, picked the topics, and I told him, look, it's a live stream. We pick a topic, 5 minutes later we have questions that are gonna go somewhere else anyway, but we'll start with the idea to talk about Tonewood. We're gonna open up that can of worms. So I am going to invite to the stage, to the panel, Markus Spangler, that's a very German name, from Warwick Frame is the production manager from here. He had got to put his beer down. Okay, yeah, this is very professional here. Markus Spangler, he knows about wood, like a lot. He's bringing something, and I'm not gonna, oh, Markus, he's gonna try to be funny. And he's very far away, so he loves me much. Then we'll have, yeah, come here, baby. We'll have Brian Ewald from PRS Guitars. I've heard they make good stuff. He told me earlier he knows how to handle a good piece of wood, and we're gonna see if he also knows what it's made of, and if it has any bearings on the sound of a guitar. Then in the middle, we're gonna put Colin Scott from Scotland. It sounds like a stage name. I'm Colin Scott from Scotland. It's
in the middle, he said. I'm just...
I was going to go in the middle of you guys over there, but whatever. Sit wherever you want. So Colin told me earlier, what you studied physics?
A master's degree in physics.
A master's degree in physics. So this could go really wrong right there in the opposite direction of where I wanted this to go, but we'll see. Oh, scary shit. And Tal McMull, where's Tal? He's not even here. Tal, could you come up here? He's sitting down, he's like, am I part of this? Tal McMull from Israel. McMull Guitars, these guys make guitars out of 70-year-old wood. Of course, really, that's just, it doesn't really make a difference, so why even talk about it? I'm going to shut up, which is something that the people out there are not used to. And I'm just the moderator and look at the comments and hope not to fall asleep. So you guys discuss what you think is Tonewood and if or not or what. And then we're going to see what these people out there want to know from you.
Make some troubles.
Yes.
Tonewood. What is the future of Tonewood?
Start with you. Because you're...
Well, as the brains behind Paul Reed Smith Guitars, I can clearly state that I'm sitting here with three experts. There's three experts on Tonewoods and me. I'm a guitar player, not a guitar builder, but I'm around one a lot. And sometimes I play one on TV.
Hello. Oh, I'm sorry. Fuck you, Glenn, says someone. Just to get that out of the way.
So, are there any questions about Tonewoods? Is there a favorite Tonewood?
No, is Tonewood real is the question.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Done.
Absolutely, without question. Next topic. Yeah. Well, I think I think Tonewood is one small part of a massive equation. It makes a difference.
You're totally right.
Everything makes a difference. Is it the main difference? No, but it plays a part. Agree? Disagree?
I think from the reaction of the crowd there, I'm going to disappoint them by saying that I am agreeing that Tonewood makes a difference.
Yeah.
I agree with that. Through science.
That's why it's called Tonewood, I guess.
Yeah, I would say so. Hello.
What's with the mic?
What kind of wood is this mic made out of?
Yeah, I'm wondering what wood is this mic made out of that's cutting out like this?
Oh, the batteries are empty. So, Tonewood. What is your favorite Tonewood?
They're all different. Someone out there can hear you.
I'm going to be different. I'm going to say ash. I quite like the sound of ash. Was that one singular yay? Well, I'm glad there's one person who agrees with me. I don't know. I'm not quite sure what it is about. That's the problem with Tonewood. I think there's no definitive answer why it sounds better. Just like you hear it and you go, yeah, I like that better than, say, mahogany. I'm not a huge fan of mahogany guitars, but ash, something about them just makes me go, ooh, that sounds better.
Better to who?
I think to me, it always depends on the pickups. I mean, sometimes it's just a bunch of parts go together and work together well, and because that's why you take one set of pickups out of one guitar where they sound great, and you put them in another guitar and they don't work. I don't know the science behind why I like what I like, but I think it depends on what you're going for with that guitar, what the pickups are. And agree? Disagree?
That is one question from the audience here. What is more important for the sound of a guitar, the wood or the pickups? Which is the big debate.
You want me to start a big argue now?
That's why you're here.
The wood is about 80%, but it's not like a math. You can say this gives like more percent, or this one, it's a matter of taste. Some people would say that only the pickups, and for them, they will try 10 guitars with same pickups, it will be the same. But that's his taste. It's whatever he plays with his amplifier, with his, stuff. It's really, he says that ash is one of the best wood for him, right? And it's amazing for another person, and it will be really bad for a different person. So my favorite wood is alder. And I like it because it gives a specific tone. Because you can try tones of different woods, and they give more frequency. And sometimes those frequency doesn't do good for me, but still it gives more frequency.
I think it's all about there's certain woods will influence, strengthen certain frequencies while it diminishes others. And depending on what kind of pickups and what kind of music you want to make and all the other factors, certain reduction in certain frequencies is important to make the overall instrument sound the way you want it to sound. So even when it comes to, maybe ash sucks out certain frequencies compared to alder, if you want to make that sort of sound, great. Whereas alder would be better if you were wanting to make a different sort of sound. I mean, alder's more of an all-rounder sort of wood. It'll handle a lot of different genres and sounds, whereas other woods are maybe just going to do a certain thing that's more specialized.
As a player, to me, I think pickups make a much bigger difference. If I were to play an alder strat and an ash strat and swap out the pickups, I would hear more difference from the pickups. But the wood has to play a part. I mean, if you listen to a guitar that's semi-hollow or hollow, it sounds different. You can't argue that. If the pickups were everything, whether the wood is hollow or whatever is resonating is changing it. Being semi-hollow is just a drastic example, but if the density of the wood is different, it's got to affect what's coming through the pickups. And certain pickups are more homogenized what you hear, like high output pickups. And if you run through tons of gain and you run through a lot of effects, you don't hear the subtleties of the wood as much anymore. But certain, more transparent pickups will show the difference in all the details that go into building a guitar.
Hello. I remember watching part of a video on Will's Easy Guitar, and he does not believe that the wood changes it. And he talks about density, weight, and I think what the misunderstanding is, if I understand it correctly, is that we say ash sounds like this, mahogany sounds like this. And he says, well, but the density of the wood makes a difference, the weight of the wood makes a difference. But I think what we're doing is we're generalizing. Mahogany will sound in that general direction because usually mahogany generally has a certain weight and density, whereas maple generally has a certain weight and density. If you look close enough, you can probably find a piece of maple that is very close to a piece of mahogany, and they meet somewhere in the middle. But I think generally speaking, we're talking about the direction, not about, it's not a perfect science. Markus.
I agree with you. So I think you're right with mahogany, that you have lighter mahoganies, you have heavier mahoganies, and they are sounding a little bit different compared to each other. We made in the past some trial where we put the same body woods with mahogany necks and with maple necks and maple necks with ebony fretboards and rosewood fretboards, and it was the difference, yeah? Why are you laughing?
Because one of the helpers, Michiel, is writing me things about wood in the shower.
Wood in the shower?
Yeah, don't go there.
Okay. So, definitely, but mahogany is sounding like mahogany, the more warmer tone, and maple is sounding more the brighter sound. And even if it's light or heavier, or you have heavier mahogany and you have lighter maple, the sound is different. So, in my opinion, mahogany is sounding like mahogany, and maple is sounding like maple. And of course, there is physics in it, but I think also the structure of the wood, how the grain is growing, and also how the I don't know the English word for it. The length of the I don't know.
It's the age of the wood before it was cut.
Yeah.
They were like
old
growth.
Yes, and this is, in my opinion, of course, you hear the difference.
Mm-hmm.
Right. You can't generalize and just say maple is this, because it's.
I think that's what people have. That's one of the parts of the debate.
Right.
Generalizing. And then there are people that are saying that the different types of wood, that wood in general makes no difference whatsoever because Fender did this cardboard guitar and it also made a sound.
Yeah, of course, it's making a sound. Yeah, it's making a sound, of course.
We have a question here from Jay. Does age of the wood has an impact on the tone of the guitar? And what do you guys think about artificial aging processes like cryo-tuning? And obviously, Tal's got something to say about that. What do you think about artificial aging processes like freezing wood? Because everything they do is made out of ridiculously old.
Hello.
Wait, don't. Glenn, how do you do this? Like this?
Hello, Glenn. Hello. Down a little bit. I just want to say something before about the thing is when you use a high gain pickups, the wood does make is like less important. We build more of like vintage stuff. Our pickups are really low magnetized, so the wood is really important. Sometimes you see the guitar is a little bit too bright, so we want our own pickups. So we're taking different magnets that has more low, more mid-range, and we keep winding and check, and it's almost always the same. It's changed a little bit, the EQ, but it's always stayed the same. It's the guitar. That's the low pickups. So it is different approach. About old woods, we found that old woods, it's not just old wood, it's old grown. When you cut the wood, it needs to be really old before you cut it. And that's a big difference between before you let it dry and the way you let it dry. If it's an air dry, it sits and it takes the moisture out of the wood, it's much better. When the wood is dry, just give a mid-range tone. That's what we're looking for.
Your comment on that?
We were now not talking about the syro aging and heat treating aging, and I read here near us there is a musical institute where they are checking the idea of if you deep freeze a piece of wood and what is happening, and what they found out is that deep freezing is don't bring anything with wood, and they found out the advantage that the heat treated wood makes a difference in tone. My personal believing is, because I was also a little bit going into it, and when you go, for example, to Toolmaker, they are using since years that to get the steel harder, that they deep freeze it. And of course the structure is changing in these materials. Maybe not in the wood, but for acoustic guitars, for example. But I think for metal, there is a change. It's I cannot prove it, and it's my idea, or what I think what can really make a difference, because the deep freezing treatment, I know it from we were talking with a guy who was doing this process, and he said, okay, he deep freezed guitars. Problem was always the lacquer was cracking and the glue seams were open up, so the instrument is more or less afterwards trash, but it's sounding better. And they did it also with brass instruments, and they were saying the brass instrument, there was definitely a change in the tone. And I think if it's not the wood, then I think there's something changing in the pickups. That an instrument, what was sounding before harsh or not so good, was afterwards, after this treatment, was sounding better.
I think that everything that you're playing with the wood, make it cold, make it hot, makes it different, because it's changed the moleculate. I don't know how to say that word, and it's changed the wood. If it's better, or I never tried one of those, so I don't know. But
so you can't necessarily say it makes it better or worse, but it affects it.
It affects.
It affects.
And it's
it.
always the thing, you know,
Right.
it affects. If it's sounding better, one guy is saying, hey, this is sounding now amazing, and the other guy is saying, hey, what the bullshit, it's sounding shit now. You know, this is always a matter of taste, I think. Anyway, it's always a matter of taste.
Anytime I've ever heard anything where somebody has A-B'd two guitars of different body woods and they've tried to create some sort of benchmark or a way to eliminate as many variables as possible and say, okay, you know, and they record something and here, listen to this, here's an A note played, and they play it like with a robotic arm, so it's like played exactly the same way. But it's played so softly, it's like testing a snare drum by walking over and is the wood going to affect the type of wood going to affect the shell, and you just go over and tap on a snare drum like that you got to hit it. You got like the way the wood reacts, the way you play it is not just through, you know, striking an A note at a certain velocity. That's just and you're hearing a 57 up on a speaker, and you're hearing a small slice of the picture of really what's happening, because you know what you hear when you're recording something is not really what's happening in the room. You know, I mean, engineers have been trying forever to recreate what's happening in the room on a recording without recording artifacts getting in the way. So it's almost impossible to make that experiment without any variables. Even the people who've gone through great lengths to make it, it's just a flawed formula.
Yeah, I think all the experiments I've certainly seen are flawed application of science.
Hopefully nobody who's made those and went to great lengths is in the room tonight or watching, because I apologize.
Well, if
I
they
appreciate
are,
your work.
You know, well done, but there's still too many. There's too many things that don't add up for proper science. As you say, as soon as you put a microphone in front of a speaker, you're only choosing a certain thing to look at, and it doesn't represent the entire whole. And by the time you've gone through that entire process of speaker to microphone to, you know, PC to mixing that down and sharing it, you've eliminated any change there might have been, any small difference that there could have been. You've already normalized that and eradicated it from the equation.
Yeah.
So it's exceptionally difficult to prove in that sense that there is a difference if you want to do it that way. There's got to be a better experimental method than going, yeah, I'm going to stick a 57 in front of a speaker.
Yeah. It's like testing paint colors.
I have some
with
good
sunglasses
questions here. Many people want to know what Glenn thinks about this stuff. So apparently he just left because he kind of knew that was coming. Glenn, anyone? He's probably eating. So people want to know what Glenn thinks. I think we should also ask some of the YouTube guys who hold guitars every single day if, you know, they're just imagining the differences, or if, you know, when you pick up a guitar with maple neck and button, you just expect something to come out. Maybe you even tune your amp to what you think the guitar should. Psychosomatic guitar playing. I know that's not a word. So people are asking,
We all know what he means.
does the sound depend on the shape of the guitar? What do you think? I actually think, I have this debate with my girlfriend all the time. I hope she's watching. Hey, Leslie. I think food tastes different when it's shaped differently. Discuss.
Pasta, it holds the sauce differently.
Right frickin' there, and she says, no, it's all the same. I think carrots in different shapes taste different. But again, so let's talk back to guitars.
Okay, so what I'm going to just relate to a story that everybody knows, like Eddie Van Halen with the guitar on the cover of the Women and Children First album, that he cut the carve out of the back, and he said it never sounded the same. You know, he loved the guitar, and he just cut it because he wanted to make a different shape, and it never sounded the same to him. So it's not first person, but...
I'm probably going to make myself very unpopular here, but I do think the shape makes some difference. I have never, well, there's certain sort of flying V shapes, not like the Gibson flying V, which has a lot of mass in the back end, but some of the, maybe the Jacksons, maybe the really one that's scooped right up to the bridge. I don't ever find that they sound as good as things with a big piece of wood behind the bridge. There's something about mass after the bridge makes a guitar sound better. Again, to me, that doesn't necessarily mean it sounds better to everyone, but I just find that if you scoop out that big section behind the bridge, it becomes more clinical, more clean. There's less attitude to the instrument at that point. Something is missing, and it might be mid-range, it might be something along those lines, but something about mass behind the bridge sort of balances a guitar sound better for me.
When you're cutting a guitar, you get a story of cutting the guitar, and you're taking mass out of it. So it's not the same weight, and the weight makes a huge difference. It gives a different tone. And the shape does make it different. What he says before is damn right. We can see it on bass guitars when you see that the bridge goes a little bit farther from the body or in. And like there is like music in the wood. Like they're like, my English just died. I'm not good with interviewing. So,
but it's a question of mass.
Yeah.
And the
mass
size
and
the
the
size of the body, thickness of the body,
Yeah.
and this is, I think, the important thing. It doesn't make a difference, I think, if whatever the shape is here a little bit 5 millimeters more or less. I think it's basically the mass what you have on materials.
Yeah, I agree. It's the mass and it's the shape as well, but it's not that huge different.
So it's very different than carrots. Bodies, 2-piece, 1-piece, same for necks. Someone said Mayones makes 11-piece necks, trying to possibly tune with a tiny little walnut something here. So what do we think about this?
I don't think there is bad or better about that, because we measure the wood. We don't you need to manipulate the wood. You can't just use every wood for a certain guitar. Some of them, we split our woods, we measure the frequency. Some of them will be an S-type, some of them will be a T-type. Some of them, for our models, doesn't work at all. We don't use it for them. So sometimes we just throw it to the garbage and they're like expensive woods. I think sometimes few pieces can make a magic happens. Like if something happened between those pieces, that one of them was a little bit more mid-rangey and the other one had more treble, but together they work perfect. And if you use the right glue to do it, it's good, because the glue makes a huge difference. If you had a thick glue between pieces, it does make a difference if it's one piece or two pieces. But if it glued properly with good quality material of glue and the pieces works together, doesn't make any difference.
I think one thing, I mean, perhaps there's an argument there that a one-piece neck, because it's all the same wood, is going to sound a certain way compared to a laminate neck that's in multiple pieces. Now, the joins are going to cause some sort of confliction between, the woods. But even when you've got a singular piece of wood, there's going to be certain sections throughout that wood that are at different densities from others. The way the wood grows, it's not a one homogeneous, equal material. Wood, its very nature has hard spots and soft spots. There's differences in density, and even if you've got a one-piece neck, each different one-piece neck is going to sound different to another because it has certain points where it's going to be more strongly vibrating, and then at points where it's going to absorb more because of the hardness and softness. So even when it comes to that, laminate necks, and a big advantage of laminate necks is their structural integrity, how stiff they are, how rigid they remain, as opposed to their tone. But even then, you could get some great vibrational transfer through those and get great tone because of the combinations of wood. And that might be the same or different to just having one piece with different densities throughout it.
And with this case, those guitar that has few pieces in the neck make it stronger. About the sounds, I told you, there is like few people that believes that one piece will be better than few pieces, but I think it's a matter of taste or whatever you're building. If you're doing a different guitar, like for vintage, many pieces will sound a little bit too bright, but for different metal guitars that will cut more, because usually they have humbuckers and they're a little bit more high gain. Sometimes you need this specifically high frequency.
I have no input on this subject. It's getting way too deep for just a guitar player. I mean, I would be merely guessing.
I wish I could read that comment. We don't want to bash some guitar companies that I've played and didn't like. And whoever's following this on the YouTube maybe knows what comment I'm talking about. Let's leave it at that. Sadly, the big evil discussion about Tonewood's not happening up here. It's not even happening in the comments. There isn't a lot of anti-Tonewood hate. So the wrong people are watching this, I guess.
There's consensus in the comments.
Yeah, some people are saying...
That's a rare occurrence.
Some people are like, yeah, it's more down to the nut and the blah, blah, but there isn't no, you could use a piece of cardboard and it would be the same. None.
Or we have changed the internet's opinion on a whole. We have done it. We have finally solved the long debate. High five. Nice. Good work, yes. Next problem.
So that means since we, wait a second, have time, we should get actually interesting people up here.
Yes, please.
Oh, yeah. No, except for Colin. Colin's a YouTuber. You guys from companies, piss off.
Yeah.
Next time when there is an interview, I'll take a sleep more than 1 hour.
Yeah.
So, guys, comment. Who else do you want to see up here talk about stuff? Anyone? Anyone?
Bless you.
Anyone? Anyone? Robert Baker is totally falling asleep over there. Oh, Marcus wants to talk about...
New Tonewood on stage, and this is the future of Tonewood.
He wants to talk about the future of Tonewood.
That's it.
What is this?
MDF.
which is apparently what all frameless guitars are made out of. Is that correct?
At the moment not, but maybe in the future. If the world is going on with the CITES and whatever, then we will have instruments made out of this.
That is correct. There was one question earlier about the replacement for Rosewood. Let's do that, and then we'll have some people that we can throw up here because people want to see people. So what do you think will be a replacement for Rosewood? Not MDF.
I have no idea.
No, neither do I.
I have a feeling you have an idea. Good.
The substitute will be Brazilian rosewood.
So, okay, that solves that. Chal, you got something to say for that?
There is a different kind of rosewood. Not all of them will be better than a different kind of woods. We specifically couldn't find anything yet. We tried a lot of stuff since there is that problem with the rosewood. And we brought, we had the CITES fully with all our old stock woods. We have a lot of them, but we have them and we're still looking for them. We couldn't find any yet.
But I think the whole debate about the rosewood or why they put it on the red list, and it's for the whole industry big pain in the ass. In my opinion, it doesn't solve the problem that you kill the rainforest. Because I think, and I talked with one guy from the government here in Germany, they are in charge for CITES, and they said the problem is that now they are going to the point that we, in the music industry, we create a value on the instrument. We make an instrument. We make a higher value out of it. And what are they doing now in the rainforest or in India or wherever it's coming from? They have no job anymore. So what they are doing, I heard it from Blackwood from Africa, that they were making coal out of it, wooden coal. And they're destroying a big area of the rainforest and not going just like cut a tree over of rosewood and bring it out of the forest. No, they're making now big areas and get less value out of it. So, and this is, I think, the biggest problem, what is happening now. Than to put it on the red list and say, don't use it because it's bad thing to have it on an instrument. I think the correct way would be to use it, to use woods from the rainforest, but to get a higher value out of it and to get them to the point that they understand that they have to make a living out of it. And if they cut only a few trees out, replant them, it's regrowing. Like we do here in Europe or in America, I think this is the best way to do. And not just put it on the red list and the problem is solved. No, the problem is somewhere else.
Because people are still keep using rosewood. Because not every custom guy knows what rosewood is. People keep sending rosewood and give it a different name. And the problem is exactly what you said. You can't just start selling it in mass produce for people for making tables and stuff. They gotta give it to the person who needs it. That, like guitar builders, they're using like small pieces of wood, and
of course we think we're the ones who should have it, right? I mean, of course it's not the furniture industry, it's not the car industry. We are the ones who should get the good stuff, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. We would all agree on that, of course. We are kind of seeing it a little bit from our point of view. So there have been requests for Phil Mcknight to come up here, and Pete Thorne. Yeah, Phil. And where are you guys? Phil Mcknight, you know your name? Yeah. Well, come up here.
Hello, good evening.
Have I been requested to leave yet?
No, you can hang out.
Oh, well, that's okay. I was just fully expecting people to say, get that guy out of here.
I'll have to tell you about a very mean comment about you from my girlfriend later.
Oh, well, I will look forward to that one.
No, don't wait. Tell us now.
Why, no one wants to sit with me, by the way. That's just awesome. No. Steve. Anyone else? No.
It's becoming a much different life.
My bucket list is full. Come on, who else do we have here? Pixie? Pixie, come on.
What are we going to talk about? We're talking about wood.
I can't believe we talked about wood for this amount of time and I haven't made a single penis joke. That's ridiculous. I must be really tired or nervous or like, I don't know what's wrong with me, so I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I really apologize.
Lose your sense of humor. Come on now. Get into the gutter.
Would you like to learn a new word for penis?
Now the party started.
There's a Scottish word for penis called tadger. Tadger.
Leslie, you've heard it here. Please write that down. So, questions to you guys from people. This guy Scooch14 has asked for the 15th time now. Colin, active or passive pickups?
Scoosh, you already know the answer to this one. It's passive pickups. And you know the score. Scoosh has a couple of guitars built from me.
Ah, okay. So
he knows.
To the rest of the panel, active, passive?
I don't hate active pickups. In fact, I have several pairs of active pickups that I like, but I probably prefer passive. I think certainly there's more range in the market for them. And I don't know, I just seem to like the sound better, I think, in general. But active can be pretty damn good. And when you have a single coil guitar that's humming like crazy, sometimes you can throw a set of actives in there. It sounds pretty damn good. So, you know.
Specific application.
Yeah, specific application. You know, I think in certain guitars, the actives really work. It's not a lot, you know, but.
Good in basses sometimes.
Excellent in basses, especially with an 18-volt source, because you get so much more headroom. A lot of active pickups can work between 9 and 27 volts, and 18 would be like the sweet spot. For guitars, it makes no difference, but for bass, the dynamic range increase actually does make a difference.
These guys actually know stuff. Why am I here?
And
it's so weird.
I like the EMG once in a while on a bass, for sure. They sound good. A friend of mine lent me a bass recently. Lended me a bass. That's not a word. Yeah. And it sounds amazing. It's got an EMG in it. It's just a P bass copy, you know, kind of like... Actually, I think it's a 60s body with like a warm-off neck or something. And he got an old EMG and put it in there, and it sounds killer. It's great. And I'm a passive pickup guy in guitars, for sure. I like low-output passive pickups in guitars, but it's something about it in bass just works. I like basses that sound, and Warwick basses are actually very nice for this, that kind of piano-like quality, that ringing, low clarity situation, and active pickups, I think, lend themselves to that. I don't know.
I agree. I personally use passive, but I think actives get a bum rap. They forget, you know, they always go right to the metal guys, but they forget like David Gilmour.
He did, yeah, for sure. I don't know if it's like his best tones.
No, it's...
You know, but
look at that.
Yeah.
Steve, look at that. That's all active.
But active pickups solve... Think of it logically. They solve problems.
Yeah, sure.
And that's really what it's about. You're going to run, you know, when you're cumulatively running 100 feet of cable or 200 feet of cable through...
Yeah, you're buffered right out of the gate.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and you're going to run it through 20 stomp boxes, and then... and think of this, and they're practical for smaller players too, when they're in the bar and the blender comes on. Yeah. You know what I mean? And they keep a consistent, and so there's advantages, but I think they get the bum rap because they were accepted so easily into the metal market. The metal players embrace them. They become the image of them, and they kind of...
That's a good point.
Yeah, they kind of... So then you have people forgetting that there is, you know, there are a lot of uses for active pickup that are not metal. So.
I have a question here from Robert Baker, which is ethereal or ethereal. And if you guys don't know what this is about, I seem to have been the only channel that Brian Wampler did not send the ethereal to get reviewed. So everyone kind of says, Henny, how do you like the ethereal? So he continuously posted on Facebook and says, hey Henning, look, here's my ethereal. So could someone in his vicinity please kick him?
Yeah.
Someone? I don't see feet going up. Anyone? Oh, come on. Someone, come on. Philip? No, he high-fived him. Thank you. Okay. So, anything, let me see what else do we have. Ethereal, active, passive. Back to the Tonewood debate with you guys, apparently. And a German question. Should I read it to you guys in German?
No.
You could try.
Okay. Wieso werden keine Alternativen zu tropischen geschützten Hölzern gesucht, gerade in Bezug auf Nachhaltigkeit und die Abholzung der Urwälder?
No.
Yeah.
No. Pete Thorne says no, and he's the authority.
You may not check my bag.
So nothing else here. Come on, guys, we've got these people on stage.
What was that guy's question, though? Was it a good one?
Why aren't people looking for alternatives to tropic woods, to exotic woods?
They are.
They are, right there.
There's tons of that stuff. No.
Solids? Resonates?
Yeah.
No, they are. Gibson uses phenolic resin fretboards. What's that stuff called? Rich Light.
Rich light.
Right.
I have actually a guitar from a German luthier, Natsangi. He uses only German wood, so there's walnut, there's cherry, there's pear, and it works. So he absolutely wants to only use woods from around here.
And who's leading the fight on that are the acoustic companies, because the two biggest companies that come to my mind about trying to use woods that, first there's Martin, who's using phenolic resin fretboards, Formica bodies, right? They make it out of Formica. But then there's companies like in Australia, Cole Clark, that are only using woods that are indigenous to the area. And then you have companies like Godin and Siegel. They have a brand called Arts and Luthier Acoustics, and those acoustics use only woods in Canada. So they're maple, cedar, cherry wood, and only woods deemed by the Canadian Forestry Service of those trees being at the end of their lifespan.
Wow.
So it's okay to take them down. So when you see Arts and Luthery from that brand with the tree on the headstock, that means that that's their normal design, but the only wood on that guitar that is not sourced from Canada from that is the rosewood fretboard. Everything else is from Canada. So they stain everything to look mahogany, but it's a maple neck, it's cherry wood. So it's funny to me that the acoustic companies would be the ones that are willing to try all of these, and yet
It seems like there's less resistance with acoustic guitars to like, oh, it can have a cedar top and sound good, or it can have a what, you know what I mean? Like the people more willing to than maybe electrics are a little more, people want the traditional, like, oh, it's got to have rosewood or whatever.
There's a guy out of New Hampshire, Alan Carruth, who makes custom acoustic guitars. He used to actually live in my town and, used to service the music store for their acoustic repairs. And he brought in an oak acoustic one day that he had made out of some oak that he had picked up. And I got to say, it was pretty amazing. I never had heard of oak ever being used as a wood. I've never really seen it in the commercial marketplace. I don't know if it's a cost or sometimes if the wood's too hard on machinery, they won't use it because they have to replace
hard on. Sorry.
You are so observant.
You know what's interesting about that? Well, I was just thinking, like the thing with an acoustic guitar, because yes, I'm a tone wood believer guy. That I definitely think wood changes the tone of electric guitars as well as acoustics. But with acoustics, it's immediately obvious whether or not it sounds. You don't have to plug it into you can strum the thing on the wall and go, whoa, that sounds good. It's
there's a question
cool.
here for you about
it
this.
eliminates the stigma.
There's a question about right here for you about this, which is Pete, electric guitar with piezo or real acoustics for live use?
Sorry, say again.
Rather use an electric guitar with a piezo to simulate the acoustic sound, or actually use an acoustic live?
There's a lot of factors there. Like, I've used a piezo guitar. I remember doing a gig, playing a certain song in the Chris Cornell set where I had to play a Les Paul with a piezo in the bridge because it was like I was switching from acoustic to electric in the same song.
Convenience.
So it was absolutely, and he was adamant. He's like, I really want it to sound like this. And so it was only one way to do it then. So I bought a Fishman bridge and had a push-pull tone pot on the guitar, and I switched and then hit an A-B switch on the floor to go from my electric rig to acoustic DI. And so that worked. But there's a funny look to it, right? Like, you can totally, like, using IRs and all that. Like, I don't know if you guys have seen, like, Alex Lifeson do Closer to the Heart recently with Rush, where he's playing like a Les Paul, right? And it sounds like dead on nuts, the 12-string sound and all that, because he's using the and I believe an IR of an actual 12-string acoustic, and he's got it dialed in. It just sounds amazing. But there's something funny about the look. You know, you want to see, like, there's something, so there's a, I don't know, it's pleasing.
There's a disconnect between what you're seeing and hearing, and
yeah.
It's hard to, you know,
exactly
rationalize that.
So I think at the end of the day, you know, if you got to do it, you do it because of the factor of, like, you know, he's switching from electric to acoustic in that song. That's probably why he did it, so he doesn't have to use a Gracie stand and do all that stuff, you know, get around the. But yeah.
Several people now have asked, would you rather have like heavy guitars, light guitars? Do you judge guitars based on the weight? I know Tal McMullen, who was earlier here, their pricing structure, if I'm correct, is actually dependent on the weight of the guitar. The lighter the guitar gets, the more money you spend, which is a very transparent pricing structure. You put it on a scale and you know how much the guitar is. So how do you guys see that? Did you buy a Les Paul and say, okay, it needs to have a certain weight?
This is a strange one. I'm often surprised when I pick up a guitar how much it weighs. It either weighs more or less than I thought it would. And that really changes my opinion on the guitar. Like when you go, I thought it's going to be really heavy and it's really light, that's great. But sometimes when it's like too heavy, you're like, whoa, I didn't expect it to be that heavy. And you've got a sort of, there's a mythos about the heavier a guitar is, the better it will sound. There's this sort of old school thinking, like the Les Paul sort of thing. If there's more density in the instrument, it's going to like sustain forever. It's going to be great. But that's not always the case. There's some really thin, really lightweight guitars that will play fantastically, sustain forever. And I'm more on the light guitar side these days.
I find that really heavy guitars sound a little bright. I don't know why. I mean, maybe it's just the extra density, and it just takes more string vibration to get a resonance out of it. But I just feel like a lighter guitar has like a better mid-range response very often. And it could be just a pickup thing, you know. I don't really have I have a Strat that weighs like 10 pounds, and I have a Strat that weighs like 6.75 pounds, and they are very different instruments, even though they're both Strats.
I'm amazed that you know the weights of your guitars. I got 70 guitars and I couldn't tell you shit about them.
I know the weight of every single one of my guitars by the ounce, down to just, I know them all.
Wow. You weigh them?
I weigh. Well, I had a store for 12 years. I weigh every single guitar in the store.
You're here at GuitCon where you have serious guitar nerds, people. I mean, serious guitar nerds. They weigh their guitars.
Yeah. Well, I believe that. Let's say, depending on the guitar, let's use a Strat. That's a very practical instrument. That there's a sweet spot. Like if it's too light, it goes under 6 pounds, the guitar becomes really hollow, mid-rangey. It doesn't really sustain well. It loses a, right?
Same thing with Les Pauls, 8.2 to 9.
Yeah.
Is my,
yeah. And then when you go the other way, it gets now where I would differ is, so on a Strat, then if it gets too heavy, then it goes too far into a spectrum of sound. And like Les Pauls, I think there's a sweet spot for Les Pauls, and I agree. It's exactly what you said. But the only difference with Les Pauls is as they get heavier, they don't get worse, but they just get harder to hold. to draw on your shoulder. When they're 10.5, 12 pounds, they're just really, hard on you. But yeah, it's not unique. Eric Johnson, they make the Eric Johnson Strat at Fender. Those Strats are all 7 pounds, 6 ounces. That's what they're shooting for when they make every guitar. Yeah. Because that guitar's cloned off of his 57 that he had reworked and stuff, and that's what the sweet spot is, and that's what he spec'd it at when they did the guitar. You have a model guitar. And Sir is one of those companies where if you go online and you look at Sir guitars, majority of the retailers, maybe 90%, they're posting the weights of those guitars. Yeah. Did you, when you did the guitar with John, did you give him a parameter of weights that you would like the guitar to be?
Sort of. We use the African mahogany, is the stuff, and it's generally lighter, and I like that wood a lot. I had a 59 Repro LP built, by Guillier, and that guitar sounds unbelievable, and it's a magic weight. And we talked about the wood when I ordered it, and he said, "Now, do you want it to be like a rock and roll machine, or do you want it to have some of that Jimmy Page, like a little more like airy thing, or do you just want it to be like distortion guitar?" And I was like, "No. I want it like the magic fairy dust shit, you know, and you know, pretty much. And I think he's the one that said big telly on steroids kind of thing, and I coined that, and that's the sound I always think of. It's like, yeah, telly on steroids. Like when you see Jimmy Page play live, you know, song remains the same or whatever, and he's playing a 59 Les Paul, but he's playing songs that he cut on a telly, you know, but it still sounds like the right, like, it's like, yeah, that's cool. It's like a slightly bigger, bolder version of the same thing, and to me, so anyway, he told me, I don't even know if I should be talking about this, but he told me, because he likes to keep these things on the down low.
No one sees this, so you can... You're amongst friends.
You're safe with us.
Well, he told me he's seen purchase orders from Gibson in the 50s, where, because a lot of people think Les Paul's Honduras mahogany, right? And he's like, I've seen the purchase orders signed by Ted McCarty for large quantities of African mahogany in the 50s. So he's like, I know that species they used that in the 50s to make those guitars. And he has this theory that those magic kind of airy ones that have a lot, you know, kind of a lot of resonance are that wood. And that's what I hear in that wood. It's more resonant than the Honduras stuff can be a little heavier and a little, so it's solid and be rock and roll, you know, like, but if you want it to have a little bit of air to the, you know, and I'm a firm, so that guitar, it's like resonates like crazy, and it just sounds like big telly to me. Not like a telly exactly, but it's got that chime on the top end. Right. So consequently, when we did the Sir model, that's what we decided to use. So I think that's mainly, you know, 100% of what they're using for the backs anyway. Yeah.
Hey, I got a fun question. Let's play a game. Desert Island,
A double howl?
Double howl. Desert Island setup. 1 guitar, 1 amp, 1 pedal. Go.
And a generator with electricity.
First, let me just say, this is the oldest, lamest question in the book that I get every single live show. The friggin' Desert Island question.
Probably from the same guy.
And
probably from this guy.
I just want to ship off to a desert island. I don't know. A Strat with a plexi and a metal zone.
That's good. Why is there power on the desert island? That's what I want to know. How is there power? An acoustic.
Let's assume there is power.
Assuming there's power on this desert island. Oh, jeez. I'm thinking I'm on the line with you. Do you know, for the fun of it, let's take the metal zone and have a laugh. Or, you know, it'll keep me angry this whole time. You've got to distract yourself from the fact that you're stuck on a desert island with no rescue. So let's go for, you know, a BC Rich Warlock with a metal zone and a line 6 Spider. Yeah, go for it. Just to be angry the whole time, and you'll just forget the passage of time that you're stuck there for.
Or something that makes you so angry that you really want to get off the island even more, because that setup would want me to. I want to get off that island.
You're like Tom Cruise in Castaway, and you're like, I got to get over that wave so that I can get out of here, get away from this.
You could build a
Warlock.
raft out of them. Build a raft out of your shit amplifier you don't want to play.
For you, it would probably be your guitar, I would assume.
Yeah.
And my amp.
I gotta say that, but of course.
Some delay. I need a delay pedal.
So after all these questions, I can't actually like give a real answer, right? After all these answers, I can't actually really say. No, we're not gonna do that because it's not funny. Okay, let me see.
We just made this guy feel terrible about his question.
What is his favorite dessert? What the? Yeah. Okay, here's a Boss HM2. Why?
Oh, the heavy metal?
Yeah, he's got that shirt.
But the question is why?
Didn't even notice.
What
Sounds
is
good
your
on
answer?
bass.
The question
Really
is
good
why?
pedal on bass, by the way.
Because it is black metal.
Because the shirt was free?
It wasn't free.
What?
That actually is worse that it wasn't free. So you know that didn't help
you should
anything.
not have said
that didn't help anything. So that you now announced to the world you paid for that shirt.
Subs
I
will go down.
I would just like to say this isn't just an HM2 shirt. This is a Rotten Sound shirt, who are a black metal band who are absolutely fantastic. Everyone should check them out. I bought it because they're a good band and it's their merchandise. I'm promoting them. So I just want to put that out there. There you go. Check out Rotten Sound.
There you go.
Support local music. For the record, my island would be my I didn't get an answer.
Back to the island.
I would like the most buoyant amp and a guitar that's shaped like a paddle.
I'm going to read this question, and we're not going to discuss it because we'll be here for 3 weeks. Tube amps or amp modeling? I'm just saying that there is this question, and we're not going to talk about it.
Well, is the
Thank
question
you
which
for
one,
asking that.
Is the question,
Thank you for starting this.
Is the question which do you prefer?
Apparently.
Yeah. I prefer tube.
I think obviously live I prefer tubes, but certainly I really do like the palette I get out of a really good modeling piece of software. I find myself more entertained with the modeling than certainly one single amp. If I had to choose one single amp versus a modeling rig, I'd take the modeling rig every time.
And I thought we could be friends.
No, you're supposed to say, we were almost friends. We were so close.
I think it's exceptionally application specific, depending on what you are doing. Yeah. Like the modeling rig is so great if you just want those sounds. If you've got those sounds, you're taking them on tour. I'm coming to that. Don't rush me. Yeah, no, I think it's great if you're doing that. You need specific sounds. You're on the road. It's nice and easy. But I would prefer to have the real valve amp.
Amp. Tube. Amp.
But I have seen pictures of you playing modeling gear, and it isn't a matter of convenience. But that wasn't the question. It's not about what's convenient. We all would agree that modeling is very convenient. Lightweight, flexible,
Absolutely.
all this. Yeah. If we have a choice, studio recording or just having fun, it would be amp.
And I would say that also modeling in the last 5 years has just made light years in progress. I mean, where it was 5 years ago was an embarrassment, and today it's pretty damn good. It can be amazing. Again, I don't think it's going to replace a tube amp. It's really like if you want a lot of options. I think in the studio it's great, but especially for like a scratch pad for laying things down.
The sounds you get in your live streams when you noodle into the computer, it's awesome.
Yeah,
totally great.
I think I'm getting good tones out of my modeling rig, and it certainly keeps family life in accord. If I ever turned a tube amp on at midnight to do a live show, it would probably be my most interesting live show ever.
Okay, we'll take one more question here, but it's completely ridiculous. I'm going to kick Colin down because he's been up here for a while, and we're going to get Robert Baker up here, please. Because Robert Baker asked the panel on stage, sitting down there, what the Relic Guitars. So,
You all right there?
So that's the last thing we're going to do. Relic Guitars. What's the deal? Scratched up and all splintery and whatever.
Is it a question or is he asking if they
ask him
exist?
yourself because he's right there.
Yeah.
Do you like Relic guitars?
Yeah, when I do it myself. When I from the age, the history of the guitars and stuff. It's cool. To me, it's just a finish. So it's like, do you like pink or purple guitars, gold tops, Relic? I don't look at it like it's any kind of magic or anything. It's just, jeans. Do you buy brand new jeans, or do you buy the ones that look like they're worked in a little bit? It's just the way, it's an aesthetic for me. So.
I think other than the jean market, I can't think of another product on the market that comes pre-worn, right? I mean, there's no Relic cars, brand new. Can I get a few dents on that, right? So, I don't know.
Food.
Relic seems, it seems like unearned. It seems unearned. Well, I know what you're saying. You want to relic it yourself over time. Yeah, well, and I have a few guitars that are, 30 years old that I've reliced over 30 years. And I don't mind those chips, but, and in defense of, say, a custom shop Relic, it's one of the nicest guitars I've ever played. I mean, just gorgeous. It was fantastic. But I don't know that I'm seeking that out. I mean, if I played one and it's really nice, I might be convinced to buy it. But I'm not really drawn to the Relic like I'm not drawn to ripped jeans. And maybe it's an age thing.
You know, the problem is, I think why the Relic guitars got popular is the new finishes on guitars. Like if you buy an American Standard Strat,
Exactly.
I have friends, they play 4 to 8 hours a week, you know, in a jam band. And 2 years later, the guitar still looks brand new. I mean, unless they bumped it into something, they can't wear through that finish. And
so what we're saying is Fender makes great finishes.
well, and all the companies that...
We're saying they're too good.
No, we're saying polyurethane is much different than lacquer, and that's why they go to it, because it cures like a, you know, like a hardcore coating. So sometimes, can I see the point that somebody would play a guitar for years and feel like having a brand new still looking guitar is... By the way, I'd like to point this out. I'm not going to say why. When you said the only thing, you know, that's not true. Lawyers are notoriously known for having worn in briefcases as an aesthetic for court to not look like rookies. That's a thing. So there are
Why are you looking at him like that?
Well, because he said jeans. He said jeans. Yeah. He said because reasons. Because he said because he said jeans are the only product you buy like that. But the truth is, there are, you know, right, there are notorious other things that people don't want to look like the noob, right? And you're right.
Can you just both have a microphone?
Lawyers are pretty fucked up people in general. I wouldn't go by anything they do or say, and I wouldn't look at any of them as role models when it comes to fashion.
Certainly not one with an aged briefcase. No,
Hey, if my lawyer ever showed up with an aged briefcase, I'd probably fire him on the spot.
The irony is that lawyers and doctors, that crowd is the only kind of people that would buy a Relic guitar. could afford to spend an extra $1,000 to make a guitar look like they played it. So, sorry, thank you.
Trey from Gear Gods, ladies and gentlemen. My stance on that, by the way, is I think, for me personally, when it's an instrument that could be old, like a Strat, a Tele, a Les Paul, that could be old enough to have all this aging, for me it makes a difference because I beat it differently. I don't treat it as nicely, and I'll just think, even though I know it's brand new, I know it kind of deserves some dirty playing, some more loose playing, some more... I'm trying to, I don't know, honor the history it never had. I let the Relicing actually fool me. If it's a PRS, a Framus, a whatever, a guitar that doesn't have that history, that doesn't, it doesn't fool me. Like Phil X, whoever he has a beautiful Pantera 2, beautiful guitar, and it's black and aged and all sprinkly and whatever. And I'm like, well, that guitar was invented last year, so it couldn't possibly be that old. Still, it's a nice guitar, but I like it on guitars that could be that old.
Yeah, well, that's my whole thing. Like what Phil was saying is, like, I have a Strat that I've had for 11 years, and played it a ton. I even I've smacked it on doors, and it's dented the actual body. It looks almost brand new, other than dents and dings on it. Not worn out at all. And it's like I've spent so much time seeing all these, you know, vintage Strats and vintage guitars that are just worn out. And I'm like, how much do I need to play this thing to get it to look like that? So to me, it's like, if you got it Relic or something like that, it's almost inspiring to look at. Like I see it and I want to play that guitar all of a sudden.
Yeah.
So, like just like you said, it's like I don't know if I can play that guitar enough in my lifetime to even get it to wear out.
Well, and the other thing is, not all Relics are created equal. Some look really horrible. That's right. Yeah. And then that messes things up. To me,
your way, Craigslist.
Yeah, Craigslist. Yeah, everybody who has a dented made in Mexico Strat has a Relic guitar now for sale on Craigslist. But to me, Relicing, where I sometimes disagree with people, is I really think Relicing is an art. Because when I look at a guitar that I can't figure out if it's Reliced or if it's real, I sit there and sometimes in awe because I realize like that guy just didn't take some sandpaper, throw some chlorine on it. You know what I mean? I mean, that's some real work. But when you look at the ones that kind of look cheesy, they kind of take the fun out of it.
Yeah, I don't mind it, like, if it's relicked, you know. I think for me, it's like it has to be tasteful. That's it. That's the thing. And on some guitars, it helps the feel. Like, you know, if the back of the neck's got the, you know, the lacquer worn off, and it's like raw wood. I love that. So sometimes it's great on certain guitars, as long as it's not that overdone, like burnt, like, you know, the stuff that looks like you dragged it behind a pickup truck or something. It still wouldn't be that screwed up. I can't stand the ones that are overdone. That's too much. But you know, I heard that relics came about originally from the Stones, because
Keith Richards wanted a guitar that felt exactly. Fender built him beautiful guitars, and he was like, yeah, but they feel all new. And then they had to find a way to make him feel with these new guitars like he felt with his old guitars, and that's how it came about.
Yeah.
I actually had a piece of information that I could use, because these guys just nail me to the wall when it comes to information. I'm going to cut this off here because we actually want to get up, not me, these guys and other people want to get up on stage and be loud. So till 11, we are going to tear it up, as one says in Germany, up here. So everyone out there on the live stream, hang out. We're going to not be on sofas. We're going to drag this off the stage. And what then happens, nobody knows so far. So hopefully Bo behind the board, the master of the sound in here, and his amazing team of helpers is going to make an amazing sound. And the guys in the room, thank you back there, Patrick and the whole team that are actually doing, Bo is doing the sound in here. They are doing a separate mix for the people out there in YouTube land. This is a pretty big kind of multi-mixy kind of thing. Hopefully it works all out. Post comments tomorrow so we can improve this. If the comments are get off the stage, Henning, that is an improvement I'm probably not going to go for.
Should I send that comment right now?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Thank you.
Maybe they could say not put the bald guys like the end caps.
Thanks for watching, guys. Give us a couple of minutes and then let's rock. Okay? Get off my stage. Thanks, guys. I know.
Standing at the crossroads, asking for the path. I don't believe in Jesus nor in higher math. I try to close my eyes and rely on what I see. The world in black and white is not enough for me. I gotta get up, I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm fed up, it's time for me to disappear. I'm under stress, I depress my family. I'm in regress and there is no remedy. Oh, I'm losing touch with reality. This kind of duality is too much for my mind and any kind of psychotherapy.